Africa needs to confront a hard reality. The global system does not protect countries because they are peaceful or poor. It protects countries because they are costly to attack. The recent pressure on Venezuela shows this very clearly. When a country has resources but lacks strong deterrence, powerful nations feel entitled to intervene. Many Africans are watching this and asking the same question: what actually stops external control? Right now, Africa has no nuclear weapon state. South Africa once had them and dismantled them because the people who were giving up their power did not want us to attack them. Not understanding that South Africans are a peaceful nation and we do not intimidate anyone and we don't really attack unless provoked, then at that point we have every right to defend ourselves. So every other African country is also blocked by either law, pressure, money limits, or military weakness. On paper, Africa is committed to being nuclear free, but in practice, this leaves the continent exposed in a world where nuclear states dictate outcomes. So let's be clear, I am not saying we now have to be rushing to build bombs, but we have to understand why Africa has no leverage at the highest level of global power and why that even matters. First of all, what is stopping African countries? The biggest barriers is international law. The African Nuclear Weapon Free Zone Treaty binds the continent. Countries that break it face sanctions, which we could probably easily overcome. It faces isolation, again, come on, and possibly military action. Western powers strongly enforce this rule on Africa while tolerating or ignoring violations elsewhere. That double standard has been made policy at this point because, I mean, look at the world that we are living in. Other, Another thing that is stopping African countries are money and infrastructure. Nuclear programs are expensive. They require advanced science, stable electricity, skilled engineers, and secure facilities. Many African countries struggle to fund basic services, let alone advanced weapons research. That makes individual national programs unrealistic, at least for now. Then the third thing is political fragmentation. Africa does not act as one unit. States distrust each other. Regional blocs compete with one another. Without unity, no country can absorb the cost of political fallout of defying global nuclear rules. And then we have to consider the fact that Africa has military vulnerability. Even attempting nuclear development would invite preemptive pressure. There would be sanctions, sabotage, coups, and proxy conflicts that would follow quickly. African leaders know this. The risk is personal as well as national. Now, the question becomes, can these barriers be overcome? Individually, no African country can do it without being crushed. But collectively, the situation changes. Africa's power is not in unilateral action, it's in coordination. The continent has population, resources, geography, and growing political awareness. Where it lacks is a shared red line. This is where Burkina Faso and Ibrahim Traore come into focus. Burkina Faso under Traore represents something new. It's not perfection, it's not dominance, but it is resistance. The refusal to automatically concede control to Western interests. The refusal to accept permanent dependency. That posture alone has triggered discomfort abroad. The Venezuela situation sends a signal to us. If a country resists too much, pressure escalates. If leadership cannot be bent, it is removed or neutralized altogether. Africans are noticing this pattern. Leaders who reject external control are isolated. Their development is disrupted, their countries are destabilized. And the message is simple: comply or suffer. This is why Africa must unite around Burkina Faso, not because it is strong, but because it is symbolic. It represents a test case. If Burkina Faso is forced to submit, every African country gets the message. If it survives with regional backing, then the message changes. So, okay, now back to nuclear weapons. Africa does not need every country to pursue them, right? That would be pretty chaotic, happening all at the same time. What Africa needs is deterrence thinking. It needs to stop assuming that moral standing protects sovereignty because it does not. There are several paths that Africa could explore without immediately violating treaties. The first one would be to develop a unified security doctrine. Africa needs a continental stance that external military intervention is unacceptable, not in words, but in consequences. Coordinated sanctions, trade blocks, and diplomatic resistance must be automatic. Second, advanced civilian nuclear capability. Nuclear energy, research reactors, and scientific capacity are legal. Building this at scale creates technical depth. It also shortens the gap between civilian and military capability without crossing any lines. The third one would be collective defense agreements. If one country is attacked or destabilized, others respond economically or politically as one. This raises the cost of intervention from foreign countries who want African resources and choose to use force to get it instead of trade agreements that works for both parties who partake in the deal. The fourth one would be strategic ambiguity. Africa does not need to announce its intentions. It needs to be unpredictable. Deterrence works when opponents are unsure how far resistance will go. Fifth is internal legitimacy. Leaders must be accountable to their people. External powers exploit weak governance. Strong domestic support makes intervention harder. They cannot get in if we are one. The reality is uncomfortable. Nuclear weapons remain the ultimate shield in the current global order. Countries without them rely on the goodwill of those who have them. That goodwill is conditional and it is temporary. Africa's choice is not between peace and aggression. No, it is between dependency and leverage. The Venezuela situation shows what happens when a resource rich country lacks hard deterrence. Its sovereignty becomes negotiable. Its leadership is delegitimized. Its people suffer while outsiders profit from their resources, their land, their people. I could go on, but Africa does not want that future. Nobody wants to live permanently under the threat of intervention disguised as concern. Uniting around Burkina Faso is not about copying its policies. It's about drawing a line. It's about saying that African development paths will not be dismantled because they are inconvenient to external or foreign powers. And this moment matters. Right now, Africa is young, it's connected, and it's increasingly aware. The old narratives are breaking down. People are asking real questions about power, protection, and sovereignty. Nuclear weapons are part of that conversation, whether people like it or not. Ignoring the issue does not make it go away. Understanding it is the first step. Africa does not need to become aggressive all of a sudden, it just needs to become untouchable. That requires unity, strategy, and the courage to stop pretending that the world is fair.